Vivek Ramaswamy angers Don Lemon in heated exchange over Civil War and Second Amendment. Aye, and watching the footage of this was the intellectual equivalent of seeing Dwayne Johnson sticking his hand on Warwick Davies' head and just repeatedly booting him in the gonads over and over again. Now, for those of you who don't know who Vivek Ramaswamy is, allow me a brief moment to explain. Vivek is an American business leader and New York Times bestselling author of Woke Inc., Inside Corporate America's Social Justice Scam, along with his second book, Nation of Victims, Identity Politics, The Death of Merit, and The Path Back to Excellence. Just by the title of those two books alone, you know he's probably one of the most based Indians on planet Earth. It makes sense, doesn't it, that Indians are doing so well for themselves because A, there's over 1 billion of them, and B, because they're lucky enough to have a bit of a tan in 2023, it renders them immune to many of the criticisms that sensible, hard-working white people are wide open to because of this bizarre obsession with race by the powers that be. Maybe that explains why the likes of Hamza Yousaf in Scotland and Rishi Sunak in England are rising to the tops of their fields. All the world leaders are looking to be Indians, and frankly, to people like me, who care only about a meritocracy, if people like Vivek Ramaswamy do exactly what it says on the tin and aggressively pursue a free, meritocratic society, good luck to them. Perhaps they'll be able to succeed where white politicians continually fail because they are too cowardly to absorb the insults and crack on and do what need doing regardless. Anyway, on to this cringe interview, and it is cringe. Vivek Ramaswamy angered CNN This Morning host Don Lemon during a debate on gun rights for black Americans while on air. In the heated exchange, Lemon took offence to Ramaswamy's recent statements at an NRA event about Democrats in the South instituting gun laws to prevent African Americans from protecting their newfound rights in the post-Civil War era. Lemon reduced his point to a declaration that the Civil War was fought merely to give black people gun rights and berated him for it. The CNN host further told Ramaswamy that he had no right to talk about the experience of black people because he's not black. This childish and reductive argument is, on the face of it, wholly illogical. All human beings need to be good and capable leaders is a fully functioning brain and the ability to empathise. If that wasn't the case, Margaret Thatcher could have only been the Prime Minister for women, Barack Obama could have only been the President for black men, and Mayor Pete, who admittedly is about as much use as a nun's baps, could only be the mayor for gay men. White, gay men. If it isn't obvious, you might as well be picking their eye colour or the shoe size. These ludicrous traits that people pick up on and then decide you can only have an opinion if you are these things. It's self-evidently ludicrous. Every single day lawmakers meet to discuss the issues of the day and pass laws and programmes and policies that affect all and sundry. It might affect children, it might affect Asian men, it might affect tall men, fat women, short people. If they're going to move forward with a prostate cancer initiative, they don't only talk to men. 10 women, if they're at the top of the medical fields, can come up with policies and procedures that only aid men. It's not like if your doctor comes in, alright doc, I think I found a lump on me bowels. Any chance you can sort me out? And your doctor happens to be a woman. So she goes, nah, can't treat you. We have to find you a straight, hairy, middle-aged, white northern man. He can give you a diagnosis. It's completely preposterous. Vivek Ramaswamy can give me reasonable, sensible opinions on anything he's done the reading on. It doesn't matter if it only affects women or kids or gays or Chinese people. It's a non-point. But let's just listen to this idiot embarrassing himself live on television, shall we?
And the Second Amendment was part of
the hang on, please. I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second. So to say that black people, say what you said again?
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They were not secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the civil rights movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People were trying to change the freedoms that were supposed to
And you
happen.
know how they got it?
War
They got their
and
Second Amendment
Reconstruction.
rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today, down the
The NRA did not play a big role in
Absolutely,
that.
they trained
That
black Americans
is
how
a
to use
lie.
firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in
This is just historical fact. But
It's
down
not historical fact.
The part that I
Just
find
because you say it's historical fact.
The part that I
it's
find
historical
insulting
fact.
is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have
The
gone
fact
through
that I
civil
find
rights
insulting
revolution in
is
this
that
country.
you are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's
and
where
I
you and I
know
have
the
a different
freedoms
point
that
of view.
black and white that black people don't have in this country,
here-
and that black people do have.
2 points. First of all, he's wrong. It is a historical fact. And secondly, did you hear the guy? He said black people do not enjoy rights and freedoms in America today. This is years after we've had a black president, a black vice president, a black Supreme Court justice, everyone from Oprah Bloody Winfrey to LeBron James to Michael Jordan to Michael Jackson. You can reel off all day long hundreds of people that happen to be black and are at the very, very top of their respective fields in any discipline in the United States. What freedoms do they not have, Don? You absolute lemon. That he is well named, isn't he? Because the man is a lemon. Sorry, a privileged multi-millionaire lemon living in the lap of luxury, while some white men happen to be homeless or addicted, living in the bus station. Because they may have some issues in some impoverished black areas, doesn't mean that black people are not free in the United States. You would think that a black president, a two-term black president, would have been the final nails in this infantile, ridiculous coffin. But clueless clowns like that lemon cannot see reason or common sense, and he'll sit there in a $10 million apartment in Manhattan, one of the most privileged men on the planet, and say that I'm an African American and therefore I'm not free in America. And who is free? The homeless smackhead in the bus station? Vivek Ramaswamy is beyond based. And I think Trump should consider him for his VP if he gets the nomination. Because everybody talks about the black vote. You know, it's a pretty big vote that's recently emigrated in large numbers to the United States in the last few decades. Indian people, Asian people, and unlike woke, authoritarian, identity-mad, limp-wristed NPCs, they know a good idea when they hear it, and Mr. Ramaswamy is full of them. But let me know what you think. I'm curious. Has anybody even heard of him over the pond? He's been killing it on Twitter lately. I've retweeted him a dozen times. He talks a lot of sense. Like this guy, boo-hoo, I'm a black man, but more importantly, I am a man. I don't have to hide behind race baiting. Funny to hear an entitled millionaire like Lemon cry about how hard his life is. Well, politically homeless Tony, you can't tell Don anything just because you happen to be black, because everybody knows you have to share Don's politics for your opinion to matter. If you're a black Republican, well, you're not really black, are you? Joe Biden, he's more black than you, Tony. Everybody knows that. That's called logic, Tony. Suck on it. But anyway, let me know what you think. I'm going to give the last word to Vivek. Thanks for listening. See you soon. Cheers.
Just got out of my interview this morning with Don Lemon in particular, also Poppy, who he didn't let talk very much on CNN. The remarkable thing is this guy, without knowing an iota of history about what actually led black Americans to get freedoms, is now lecturing about the fact that somebody, if they're not black, can't talk about that history, claiming that black people haven't had their civil rights secured even today, as he sits on air dominating the conversation from his co-anchor in a way that it was actually pretty uncomfortable, actually, to be there on set. The thing he missed is we had this debate about, they picked a clip from my NRA speech where I factually stated that the first anti-gun laws in this country were passed in 1865 to keep black people from owning guns. And the reality is, black people did not have their freedoms secured in this country until their Second Amendment freedoms were secured. That's just fact. Don Lemon needs to go study it, but that made him feel a little uncomfortable because it doesn't fit his narrative. So, you know what? He actually missed the fact that Dred Scott, which was one of the most disastrous Supreme Court cases prior to the Civil War, actually said that the reason black people couldn't get their freedoms was that they would have the right to own guns. So he's just wrong on the history, wrong all the way down, but believes that the color of your skin determines what you're allowed to say. I reject that view. I think we ought to be able to have an open debate whether or not you're black or not, you should be able to talk about these issues. Don Lemon rejects that view. Frankly, his attitude towards apparently allowing his fellow female co-anchor to speak was a little bit different than mine would be. But either way, this is exactly why we need, as conservatives, to go to the other side, debate them on their own turf, and actually deliver facts and win. And we're going to be posting more clips from that later today. I'm looking forward to that.